The night my parents accused me of stealing, I was 18. The police dragged me out in front of the entire neighborhood. My dad pointed at me and shouted, "That's not my son, that's a criminal." My mom cried to the officers, "Take him, he's dangerous." I ended up spending 9 months in juvenile detention for a crime committed by my sister's boyfriend. He took my room, my life, and my family's affection. When I was released, they told me to stay away from the house. My brother sent me a photo of them celebrating my absence. I didn't yell, I just whispered, "You'll all choke on this lie someday." 5 years later, I made a move they never anticipated, and now they're at my gate, shouting, "Please let us in, we have nowhere else to go." I know everyone says their family is strange, but mine took it to a whole new level. I'm not some deep thinker or anything. I just need to get this off my chest because I can't wrap my head around it, and maybe someone here will tell me I'm not crazy. So, this all started when I was almost 19 but still technically 18 and living at home. I guess my family was never really close, but we weren't completely hostile either. I have an older brother, Charles, a younger sister, Kimberly, and parents who acted like they were running a boarding house half the time. Things got especially strange when Kimberly began dating this guy, Gary, who acts like he's the main character no matter where he is. Seriously, he walks into a room and starts rearranging your stuff, calling my dad by his first name and everything. The first sign something was off came when my mom started hiding her phone whenever I walked in. Not even subtly, she'd turn it face down. At first, I thought she was just sick of group chats or something, but then my dad began locking the garage where I kept my old gaming stuff and some clothes because my room was tiny. He'd never locked it before and simply told me, "We don't want you messing around in there," and walked off like it was no big deal. One night, I came home late from hanging out with friends. Nothing wild, just grabbing some late-night food and walking around because it was too hot in the house. I got home, and my key suddenly wouldn't work. I tried it, but it just jammed. I stood there like an idiot, ringing the doorbell at 1 a.m. After about 10 minutes, my dad opened the door and just stared at me without saying a word. I walked in, and the lights were on in the living room. Everyone was up. Kimberly was sitting on the couch with Gary, my mom was standing by the kitchen looking like she had been crying, and Charles was there too, arms crossed and not looking at me. I tried to go to my room, but Gary literally stood up and blocked the hallway, holding my old hoodie. When I told him to move, he just stood there and said I should talk to my parents. So, I was standing there looking at all of them, and my mom started going off about missing food money and things disappearing from her purse, really listing everything. Dad chimed in about tools missing from the garage, saying he found wrappers and cans in there and that this isn't how we live. I told them I hadn't touched any of that, but they just kept going, raising their voices. Kimberly started crying, saying she couldn't live like this and that I was always angry and taking things. She was scared of me. The only time we'd fought recently was when she borrowed my charger without asking, so I didn't understand where any of this was coming from. I tried to defend myself, but Gary jumped in and said he saw me taking cash from my mom's purse and sneaking out of the garage with a box. It was so random. I pointed out that I hadn't had cash in months since I used my phone for everything, but they just talked over me. Dad began shouting that I was ungrateful and that I never helped, and that Gary was the only one helping him with bills and stuff around the house. Gary stood there smugly, holding my hoodie like he owned it. I asked Charles to back me up, but he just looked away and muttered that I was always causing drama. I tried to push past Gary to get my phone from my room, but he shoved me back. I shoved him off, and my dad grabbed my arm hard, pulling me back. I pulled my arm free, and my mom moved between me and the hallway so I couldn't get through. By this point, I was just angry. Not sad, just furious that they all decided to do this like it had been planned. I told them I wanted my things, and Dad said it was all in the garage now and that I could take it and leave. I asked where I was supposed to go, and my mom said I could figure it out and that I wasn't safe to have around. I couldn't believe it. I went out to the garage, and all my stuff was in a couple of broken boxes. My old laptop, some clothes, my sneakers and books, just thrown in there. Gary came out, stood at the door, and told me not to try anything. I grabbed my stuff and told him to move. He got right up in my face, and I said if he didn't move, I'd make him. He laughed. I pushed past him, he grabbed my arm, and I swung my bag at him, making him let go. He called me crazy. My mom came out and told me to leave now or they'd call the cops. She was crying, but it didn't seem real. More like she was putting on a show. I told her I hadn't done anything wrong, and she said, "We just can't trust you anymore." Dad stood behind her with his arms crossed, looking at me like I was a stranger. I walked down the driveway, and my brother was standing out by the curb on his phone, not even looking at me. I asked him what was going on, and he just shrugged, saying, "Should have seen this coming." I asked him to help me out, but he said he wasn't getting involved. I picked up my stuff and started walking, not even sure where to go. As I walked off, I heard the door slam behind me. I got maybe halfway down the block before I checked my phone and saw a new picture in the family group chat. Charles sent it. It was them in the kitchen eating cake. Gary was sitting in my chair, arm around Kimberly, my mom smiling with red eyes, and my dad raising a glass. The caption just said, "Celebrating a peaceful house." I didn't even respond. I just left the chat. I walked until my arms hurt from the bags, then sat on the curb, trying to figure out what the hell just happened. Honestly, I was angry. I didn't feel sad, just furious that they all believed Gary over me. It was that easy for them to write me off and hand my life to someone else. If you're waiting for the part where I cry and call my ex or something, nah. I just sat there thinking about how quickly they turned on me, and I swear to God, I decided right then that I'd make them pay for it. Not with some petty revenge, but for real. That's how I ended up with nothing, watching my own family eat cake without me while some clown sat in my chair. I only just realized how much they actually wanted me gone. No dramatic speech, no big fight. Just a bunch of people quietly deciding I didn't belong there anymore. I'll tell you what happened next, but I promise you I didn't let that stand. I made a real plan, and it only gets messier from here. Update 1. I thought things would feel clearer after they kicked me out. But nah, it just got weirder. You ever have that moment where you realize you're not even the main character in your own story anymore, and everyone else just keeps living like you never existed? That's what the next few months felt like. I was couch surfing and ended up in a place that felt more like a storage closet than a room, but at least it was mine, and nobody there was hiding their phone when I walked in. Not going to lie, the first week or two, I kept waiting for someone from my family to text me. Not some apology, just anything. Nothing. The group chat was dead except for the occasional photo of Kimberly and Gary at a restaurant, my mom posting about family night, which was just them and Charles, with Dad in the background. My name was never mentioned. I kept scrolling back through old chats, trying to see if I missed some warning sign, but there was nothing new. It was like they'd rehearsed this whole thing and finally got to perform it. I heard from Charles once in a while, mostly one-word answers. I'd ask if he knew what was going on, and he'd just brush me off, telling me not to drag him into it. I started thinking maybe I did something without realizing it, but then one night, I was talking with an old friend, and he said his parents heard I'd gone off the rails and taken things that didn't belong to me. I asked where he heard that, and he just shrugged, saying, "Everyone's talking about it since your family told half the neighborhood." So yeah, they weren't just done with me, they were making sure everyone else was too. Kimberly started posting a lot more on social media about her new start and how grateful she was for real family. Gary was in every picture, wearing my jacket and holding my little cousin at a family barbecue I wasn't invited to. One day, I spotted a photo of my old laptop on the kitchen table at home. Gary had it open, acting like it was always his. They'd either trashed or given away most of my stuff. My mom posted about decluttering and fresh energy in the house. It was not subtle. I tried texting my mom, but she left me on read. I tried calling Dad, but it went straight to voicemail. The only person who answered was Kimberly, and she told me I needed to stop harassing them and to move on. I almost laughed because she was the one who used to call me at midnight when she forgot her keys or needed a ride. I told her I didn't steal anything, and she said I needed help and hung up. I started to piece things together little by little. I heard from another neighbor that Gary was helping my dad with paperwork. My dad had never trusted anyone with money stuff, not even my mom, but apparently, Gary was suddenly the golden boy. I remembered Gary bragging about how he could talk anyone into anything and how his family always said he was the fixer. I guess my dad bought that because next thing I knew, the car that was supposed to be partly mine, since we bought it together but it's registered to both of us, was showing up in family pictures with Gary driving it and my dad in the passenger seat. I tried to get some of my stuff back, like my headphones and old gaming gear, but every time I showed up, the door just wouldn't open. One time, I saw Gary in the window. He just grinned and shut the curtains. Dad told me over the phone to stop coming around, or he'd call someone. So yeah, I stopped trying, but I wasn't forgetting any of it. Meanwhile, I was just grinding to stay afloat. I wasn't living fancy, but I wasn't crashing on the street either. I worked, ate whatever was cheap, and watched shows on my phone because that was all I had left. I started keeping a list of stuff that was still technically mine. Subscriptions, accounts, anything that could tie back to me. Not out of sentiment, just keeping receipts. I knew how my family was. If they ever messed up with any of my info, it would come back to me. The worst part was how normal they all acted, like nothing ever happened. My mom posted about healing and letting go of toxic energy. My dad started showing up at community events, acting like he had this perfect life now. Kimberly and Gary were basically running the house. I saw them in the background of every picture, sitting at the table using my old mug. At one point, Gary posted a story of himself in my old hoodie, tagging Kimberly with some silly caption about second chances. It wasn't even subtle. I asked Charles straight up if he believed any of it, if he really thought I did what they said. He just shrugged, saying it wasn't his problem and why couldn't I just move on. I told him Gary was playing them, and he said I sounded paranoid. I tried to tell him about the car and my stuff, and he said I was lucky they didn't get rid of more. It got to a point where I just stopped expecting anything. I saw a couple of people from school at the gas station one day, and they avoided me. I heard from a cousin that my mom told everyone I needed to get help. I just rolled with it but didn't forget any of it. Every time I saw Gary with my family, it just made it worse. I knew he was the reason they turned on me, or at least the one who gave them an excuse. My parents had always been weird about loyalty. If you stepped outside the lines even once, you were done. Gary figured that out fast. He's a pro at making himself look innocent and knows how to act like he's saving everyone from a big threat. The part that hit the hardest was realizing they were all happier now, or at least pretending to be. My mom posted about the peace in our home, and my dad bragged about how much better things were with the right people around. Charles never visited me. He just sent the occasional meme or short text. I started to think maybe this was how it had always been, and I just never noticed. But the thing is, I'm not just going to let it go. I started looking at what was left tying me to them. The car's still in my name, some old accounts still have my info. I know where the papers are for the old insurance. I'm not an idiot. If they want to act like I'm nothing, then they can see what it's like without me for real. I started making plans. Nothing wild, just steps. I know what Gary's really like. He's not as smart as he thinks, and he's sloppy. I'm not going to just cut off their streaming accounts or whatever. That's small time. I want them to feel it and realize they can't just swap me out like a broken charger. I began with the small stuff, stopping payments for anything in my name. I changed all my passwords and removed my info from every shared account I could think of. If Gary wants to use my old stuff, he can pay for it himself. I remembered the car paperwork. If they screw up a payment, that's on them, but I'm not taking the hit for it. I kept notes on everything, but I won't lie. I didn't have a master plan yet. I was just angry and wanted them to know they picked the wrong person to push out. I didn't want back in. I just wanted them to realize what they'd done. I started telling people the real story. Nothing dramatic, just facts. I heard back from a couple of people who said they always thought something was off about Gary, but most just nodded along and changed the subject. One night, I saw a picture of my family on my aunt's feed. Everyone smiling, Gary in my seat at the table, and I wasn't in it. Not even a mention. I saved it to my phone because I knew one day I'd look back and remember exactly why I did what I did. I didn't want revenge just for the sake of it, but I wouldn't let this slide. I'm not the type to just fade away and pretend it never happened. If they want a world without me, fine. Let's see how they handle it when things start falling apart for real. That's where I'm at. I have nothing to lose, and they're about to find out what it's like to lose everything they took for granted. The next part is when things start getting interesting, I promise. Update 2. If you read the first 2 updates, you already know my family dumped me like I was last week's trash, handed my life to Gary, my sister's boyfriend, the world's biggest leech, and then just moved on, or at least they tried. I'm not built to just let that slide. I wasn't some nice guy waiting for closure. I was out for blood. I wanted them to feel it, and I wanted it to last. The first weird part happened when I was at the grocery store and saw Gary in line ahead of me. He was talking to Kimberly on speaker, acting stressed about bills and Dad's paperwork. I recognized the receipts peeking out of his pocket. My old insurance. The car, which is still in both our names on the title, has never been taken off the family plan. I never thought they'd screw me that hard. He spotted me and tried to flex, saying something about how real men handle responsibility while I just stared at him. I nearly started a scene, but I let him sweat. Over the next couple of weeks, I started noticing little things. Friends who used to talk to me at least occasionally suddenly avoided me. My aunt didn't reply when I wished her a happy birthday. I got a letter about an overdue bill. It turned out my old phone plan, which Dad promised to pay off and close, never got sorted. Now I owed money, and my credit was tanking. That's when I realized they weren't just done with me. They were trying to erase me from existence, and Gary was probably behind it because he always talked about making problems disappear. So yeah, I started collecting receipts. I pulled every old email, every text, every bit of paperwork I could find. I still had the login for the family internet, so I checked. Yep, Gary was using my name for the Wi-Fi, the car insurance, even the utilities. I found my old Spotify account still logged in on the family speaker. Guess who was using it? Gary, playing his awful playlists on my profile. This wasn't just petty. Changing the password was small time. This was about leverage. I went through the car stuff. The car Gary was driving had my name on it, so if he trashed it, it would be on me. If he missed payments, my credit would suffer. I called the loan company to get the details. They said they were behind on payments, and if I wanted off the note, I had to get him to refinance or return the car. I already knew Gary would never do either willingly, so I started poking at the edges, calling places, laying the groundwork. Every time he missed a payment, I called and reported it. I wasn't breaking the law. I was just making sure they couldn't use my name for their mess. Meanwhile, I kept hearing from random people that my mom was telling everyone I was in recovery or unstable. She was crafting this little victim story for herself. Whatever. I was done trying to fix it with words. I started sending people screenshots, texts from Kimberly begging for money, notes from Dad about the car, and Gary's messages bragging about running the house. I didn't say anything dramatic. I just showed the facts. People started asking my parents questions. Aunt Rita asked my mom why she never mentioned the car was still in my name. Mom got defensive. I heard from a cousin that there was a huge fight at a family dinner. Mom stormed out and Dad yelled at Gary for putting us in this mess. I wasn't just sitting back either. I showed up at the house to get a couple of things that were legally mine. Some tools, my old laptop, documents. Gary blocked the door and tried to push me back. I shoved him off. He swung at me, I ducked, and he hit the door frame. Mom came running, slapped me, and said I was causing trouble again. I told her straight up that if they didn't give me my stuff or get my name off the car, I'd be calling a lawyer. Dad yelled and slammed the door in my face. Whatever. I walked away. My next move was to start talking to people my parents respected. Old family friends, neighbors who used to babysit me. I laid out the facts. I didn't have to say much. I just showed them how the car was still mine, how my credit was suffering, how Gary was living in my room using my stuff, and I was the one taking the hit for it all. Some believed me, some didn't, but a few started pulling away from my family. I heard my mom got called out at a group function for not taking care of loose ends. My dad tried to call me. I let it go to voicemail. Gary tried to DM me, saying I was making things harder than they needed to be, that I should just be a man and move on. He threatened to call the cops if I came around again. I told him the next time he missed a payment, he'd be dealing with repo, not me. I wasn't bluffing. I started tracking the car, watching the payment calendar and setting reminders. Then came the financial squeeze. I froze the insurance policy that was in my name. I called the company and told them I wasn't responsible for the car and that any claims should go to the actual driver. Gary tried to renew the tags but got blocked because I put a freeze on the registration. He blew up my phone, leaving voicemails yelling that I was ruining everything. I saved every message. At the same time, I pulled my info off every account I could find. The family Spotify went dark, the Wi-Fi got shut off for non-payment, and the streaming services dropped. Suddenly, all the little things they took for granted were gone. I posted a couple of subtle things on my socials. Nothing wild, just enough for the right people to notice. People started asking questions. Now here's the kicker. My parents started getting letters about missed payments. Dad was furious, Mom was stressed, and Kimberly started blaming Gary for not handling things. Gary tried to play it cool, but I saw him around town looking stressed on the phone, snapping at Kimberly. The cracks were showing. I heard from a neighbor that my dad's car got towed. I checked the repo site, and there it was, sitting in the lot. I didn't even have to do anything but wait. The social situation got worse for them too. People stopped inviting them to events. Word spread that they mishandled some money. My mom's posts got fewer likes, and people stopped commenting. They tried to act like nothing was wrong, but I could see it. Family dinners had fewer people, and my uncle started siding with me. Cousins who had always ignored me began sending DMs asking what really happened. Kimberly tried to call me, telling me I needed to let it go and move on, that I was making things worse for everyone. I told her she picked her side, and she hung up and blocked me. I finally heard from Charles, who said Dad was a wreck and Mom couldn't sleep. He didn't apologize. He just asked if I was really going through with it. I told him I already had. He said I wasn't the only one who lost a family. I asked if he was happy with the trade. The last straw came when Gary tried to show up at my place. I didn't even let him in the building. He banged on the door, threatening me and saying I'd regret it. I just laughed, recorded it, and sent it to my dad. The next day, I heard from a neighbor that Gary was gone, moved out, and Kimberly was staying at my cousin's. My parents were alone in the house, bills piling up. I didn't need to scream or make a big scene. I just let the truth hit them where it hurt. Money, reputation, comfort. I didn't break the law or go nuclear. I just made sure they felt every single thing they tried to dump on me. Now they're stuck with the mess they made, and I'm finally out from under it. But I'm not done, not yet, until they know they can't just erase me and walk away clean. The last part is when it all comes full circle. You'll see. Final update. I guess I thought things would cool down after the money drama, but nah. It just went sideways in a new direction. You'd think after getting called out in front of two families, Cassandra would lay low, but she has this tendency to dig the hole deeper instead of admitting she messed up. I started noticing a bunch of odd things. My dad's name stopped showing up in the main family chat for days, which isn't normal. My mom kept texting me random things, asking if Remy wanted to come over for dinner, then abruptly changing her mind. I'd get missed calls from unknown numbers and voicemails that were just muffled yelling followed by a hang-up. Even the neighbor across the street started asking, "Hey, everything good with your folks?" because they'd stopped walking the dog at their usual time. People gossip, especially in this area. One afternoon, I saw Cassandra's husband's car in my parents' driveway as I was dropping Remy off. I thought, okay, maybe they're finally talking it out. But when I walked up, I heard shouting from the living room. Cassandra's voice, her husband's, and my dad's all at once. Remy looked up at me and shrugged, clearly over it. I told him to wait in the car and walked in. My dad was standing by the window, arms crossed. Cassandra's husband was on his phone, pacing, and Cassandra was sitting at the table, not crying but clearly angry, staring at the wall. I asked, "What's going on?" And my dad replied, "Your sister wants us to pay." Cassandra's husband snapped that their family was embarrassed and he was tired of the situation being public. It turned out some of the USB contents ended up in a group chat with a bunch of the groom's family, and now they were getting calls from out-of-town relatives asking if it was true she called her new mother-in-law a controlling cow. She did. She put it in writing. I saw it myself. My mom came in trying to calm everyone down, but Cassandra stood up and declared, "I'm not leaving until you pay the venue." My dad shot back, "You made your bed, you fix it." Cassandra got in his face, and Dad raised his hand like he was going to slap the table but stopped. Her husband tried to grab her arm, but she yanked away, slammed the door, and stormed out to the car. Her husband followed, slamming the car door even harder. My mom just sat down, head in her hands, not saying anything. Later that night, Christian called, furious about the family chat being full of drama. I told him, maybe if you all stopped pretending nothing's wrong, there wouldn't be drama. He tried to blame me again, saying I should apologize for airing dirty laundry. I told him, you all did the laundry, I just turned the light on. Then I started getting messages from people I hadn't talked to in forever. One of Cassandra's old friends from high school DM'd me, asking if the wedding really blew up. I replied, you have no idea. She sent back a laughing emoji and a screenshot of a group text where Cassandra's in-laws were roasting her for being fake and selfish. Apparently, the in-laws were refunding some wedding gifts, and the honeymoon was definitely off. Cassandra's husband's little sister posted a cryptic story about some people don't deserve a second chance, tagging no one, but people figured it out. Then the real fallout hit. My parents received a letter from the venue, stating they were banned from future events until the bill was paid. My mom freaked out and started calling Cassandra, but she got ignored. Dad shrugged and said, guess we're not doing Christmas there again. My Aunt Vanessa tried to host a peace dinner, but nobody showed up except her and her husband. She sent a group text afterward, complaining about how nobody cares about family anymore. Cassandra tried to save face by creating a new group chat without me or my dad, but accidentally included Remy's mom, who immediately screenshotted everything and sent it to me. Cassandra was attempting to convince everyone that the USB was fake and that I edited the emails, but when someone asked her to show her actual inbox, she left the chat. Her husband's family was now publicly stating they wanted nothing to do with her. I heard from a cousin that Cassandra's husband moved out, taking his stuff to his parents' house, saying he needed space. Apparently, he's telling people he feels tricked and doesn't trust her. Cassandra's posting sad quotes and passive-aggressive memes about fake brothers. I don't reply, I just mute her. Remy's school sends home a fundraiser flyer, and he's more interested in that than any of them. He asks if he can still invite Grandma to his concert, and I say, sure, but don't expect too much. Family's weird right now. Then out of nowhere, my mom drops by with a grocery bag, saying she's just checking in. She doesn't stay, just leaves the bag on the counter and says, text me if you need anything. I think she's embarrassed, but I don't push it. I get one last call from Cassandra. She's yelling, saying I ruined her life and that I owe her for making her a laughingstock. I just say, you brought this on yourself. Then, like 5 minutes later, she sends a voice note, but I delete it. I'm not interested in hearing excuses. So yeah, now Cassandra's locked out of most family chats. Her husband is gone, her in-laws want nothing to do with her, and my parents are just tired. Nobody's talking about the wedding anymore. It's just this awkward silence in every conversation, like everyone's pretending it didn't happen. Do I feel bad? Honestly, not really. Remy got treated poorly, I got humiliated, and nobody stood up for us. Cassandra wanted to make an example of me, but I guess she forgot that I don't just roll over. Everyone's still picking sides, but it's quieter now. Nobody's really winning anything, but at least I know I stood up for myself and my kid. What's next? Family's broken in a new way, I guess. But maybe that's better than pretending everything's fine. If something else crazy happens, maybe I'll update again. For now, I'm just moving on. Thanks for reading if you made it this far. And if you're ever tempted to let people walk all over you just to keep the peace, don't. Sometimes you've got to let it out.